Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Fields, and I am the Marketing, Communications, and Engagement Director for Black Public Media. Today, I am thrilled to be able to host a conversation about our collaboration with the Museum of the African Diaspora in San Francisco, which is affectionately known as MoAD. For the past year, Black Public Media and MoAD have joined forces to co-produce the African Diaspora Film Club, which is a monthly program featuring conversations with documentary filmmakers whose work covers a range of stories from around the diaspora. Joining me for this conversation are Dr. Elizabeth Gessel, Director of Public Programs at MoAD, and Cornelius Moore, who serves as the film club's curator, but who is also the co-director of California Newsreel. Welcome, Elizabeth and Cornelius.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Elizabeth, we're going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background first, and then in case some of our audience aren't familiar with MoAD, tell us about the museum, its history, and its mission.
So my background is in American history. Actually, I have a PhD in US history and studied Southern and African American history. I also studied museum studies, and when MoAD opened in San Francisco in 2005, I thought it might be a perfect place for me to join my interests in museum studies and African American history and culture. And so I started working at the museum in 2009 and have been there ever since in various capacities. I've been the director of public programs for about 5 years. And the museum is a contemporary art museum, and it celebrates Black cultures, ignites challenging conversations, and inspires learning through the global lens of the African diaspora. So we do programming around all different disciplines of art created by people of the Black world. And so I've worked with Cornelius on film screenings and film presentations for almost the entire time that I've been at the museum. Yeah, that's a little bit of the background about where we're at.
The first time I came to the museum was with my family. We did a family reunion, and we came, and I was just blown away. So for those of you who are listening to this conversation, this is an absolutely gorgeous facility that you absolutely must come and visit one of these days if you're in San Francisco. But anyway, I digress. Cornelius, let's talk a little bit. California Newsreel is one of the nation's oldest production and distribution centers devoted to documentary film, and it's played a significant role in the production and distribution of content made by BIPOC creators. You've been in this business a long time, so tell us a little bit about your background and then why you thought it was a good idea to partner with BPM and MoAD around this film club.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. I've been around for a while. My background is that I got involved in film exhibition or resource development in Philadelphia with the Neighborhood Film Project. And
Are you from Philadelphia?
I'm from Chester, Pennsylvania, and lived in Philly for years too. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So we showed and developed resources for community groups to present film programs. And so I was also an activist in various social movements, political movements, and one of them was the anti-apartheid movement. So California Newsreel had a project called the Southern African Media Center, started in 1976, I think, after the Soweto uprisings, and was films that we acquired to serve that movement. And so I got hired, and one of the things I got hired to do in 1981 was to direct that Southern African Media Center. I also did the shipping of the 16 millimeter films. That's how things worked then. 16 millimeter films, people don't know what that is, but anyway. So, and we have a number of, the way Newsreel worked was we had a number of media centers, and the Southern African Media Center, and anti-apartheid and anti-colonial work, but we also started distributing films about African American life and history, which became African American perspectives. So I'm also involved with that as well. And later I became founder and director of the Library of African Cinema, which is focused on films by African filmmakers.
And where is that?
It's like California, newsreel.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, got it.
and it includes documentary as well as narrative films.
Mm.
So the African American collection is largely is really documentary films.
Okay.
And how my connection with MoAD was, I think Sherry Dyson, who was at MoAD from the founding, there was a exhibit that was done at the museum on film posters about black films from the 30s and 40s, and she thought, oh, it may be a good idea to have a film program as well, and so showed old films from the 30s and 40s, and asked me to come in and talk about some of the films. So mainly, Elizabeth referred to our collaboration, and before the African Diaspora Film Club, we were doing film screenings in person. When
Yeah.
that was, you remember that?
So, back in the old days in 2019 and before.
Right, people will stop you and say, "Did you really have packed audiences?" In film screenings. What was that like? I mean, anyway. So anyway, this is the film club is an outgrowth of that, because MoAD really geniusly figured out, when it had to close down because of COVID, that programs would move to the web. So Elizabeth and I talked about how we could do something like that, and to keep people interested in coming to the museum that way.
And it's funny because I knew that you all were doing the in-person film club, and so I did not ask Leslie this. Leslie Fields Cruz, for those of you who don't know, is the executive director of Black Public Media. I didn't ask her how and whose idea it was for Black Public Media to join you when you decided to go from being in person to virtual. How did that come about?
What happened? Leslie and I were on a webinar. I don't remember which one it was because there's so many we've been on. And I posted something about our program. I think it was the program we had on Lorraine Hansberry documentary, yes. And Leslie chimed in and says, "That's a great idea, and let's talk about that." And so that began our conversation.
Well, it has been a wonderful collaboration for, I think, all of us. Elizabeth, let's talk a little bit. The museum has really a robust assortment of public engagement programs. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit, apart from the fact that the virtual film club started because of COVID, how is this program different, if at all, from some of the other engagement projects that the museum hosts?
Well, this program really was inspired by our African Book Club, which was originally in person, but then of course we moved it to online in March of 2020. And of course, a book club functions where the group chooses a book and you read it in advance, and then you come together to discuss it. And so when Cornelius and I were trying to figure out how to do film programming, we thought, people want the flexibility to be able to watch a film at any time of day. They're not used to necessarily having to go to their screen at a specific time. And so that model would work really well for the film club. So the African Book Club and the African Diaspora Film Club are very similar in terms of their engagement. But we also have artist talks. We have conversations that come from around the diaspora with different figures, different artists or filmmakers or playwrights. We also have, we've done online art classes for families, for kids. And so a lot of the online programming, we're trying to find an entry point for lots of different people. We want people to engage with the art and culture of the African diaspora in whatever way excites them. So we try to offer as many different entry points as possible.
Well, and people can find out about these wonderful offerings just by going to the African Diaspora Museum MoAD website, where I'm always excited. I'm frustrated because my schedule is so crazy. I can't go to all these things. I'm like, oh, I need to go this, I need to do that. But I highly recommend that people who are looking to engage and just learn about all of these wonderful things. There's a lot of content worth exploring at the MoAD website. So let's move on and talk a little bit about your audience. I know you started out with in-person films, and then COVID came and you've done it. So I wonder, how has the audience changed? And maybe even before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about what is the format when people sign up to do this. How does it work virtually?
So when you sign up to join the film club program, you also find out where you can go to stream the film. So watching the film on your own is part of the process. And then we come together on the second Sunday of the month at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we're treated to a conversation between Cornelius and the filmmakers. And so the audience first, obviously mostly have watched the film already, and then they are able to watch a conversation between Cornelius and the filmmaker. And then they are able to engage as well by putting comments in the chat or by asking questions. And Cornelius does a good job of paying attention to the questions as they're coming in and incorporating them into the conversation so that the audience feels like they're part of the conversation.
It's really
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah.
opportunity.
So the in-person film screenings and series were mostly connected with whatever exhibit MoAD was presenting.
Okay.
So it was connected with thematically, whether it was about Carnival or South Africa or whatever, and the films would be related to that subject. And we would be showing the film. Sometimes a few times we could have the filmmakers come in person, but mostly it was a film. So this is different, is that the audience has the possibility of dialoguing or hearing directly from the filmmakers. I think, and maybe economically it's it's more advantageous that way. So rather than bringing people in from all over the world and back.
Really just dial in. It's great.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one I went to first. I think, oh gosh, I think it was Mr. Soul. I think that was the first one that I paid attention to. And I was a little kid in Brooklyn and moved to California. And so I don't remember watching the show as a young person, but I asked my folks, I was like, did you guys, and they were like, oh my God, that show was great. And I really appreciated being able to hear the filmmaker talk about her connection to the content, to Mr. Soul and the whole thing, but the footage and everything was wonderful. And I had already watched the film, but listening to that conversation really added so much more context, and I learned so much more just about not only that era and the content, but even just her process of how she put that all together. So I highly recommend that people go check this out if they haven't done it before. And it's lovely that you can watch the film beforehand at your leisure and then just tune in for the conversation.
And Mr. Soul was the last public film screening before the shutdown in 2020.
Wow.
And Melissa Paislip did come to that screening.
Right.
So
right. Well, I'm sure the filmmakers appreciate this too, because it's easier for them to actually come virtually than it is to have to travel and all of that. So that's great. Cornelius, as the curator of this program, what is it that you hope the audience takes away from each one of these conversations?
It's always exciting to talk to the filmmakers and pose questions to them beforehand, because I'm really curious about, and I think the audience would be too, about how the filmmakers come to choose this subject, what's their relationship to the subject and the participants, and how they make their choices, what they want to what they really want to communicate to the audience, and have the audience also get a sense of the challenges of making these films, whether it's raising the money or having the participants be comfortable with being intimate and opening themselves up with the filmmakers, and also adopt the film as their own. So I think we have some very fascinating interactions and responses to what why these projects have been successful and the challenges that the filmmakers face.
So it sounds like the kinds of people who would be attracted to this are pretty broad. I mean, if I'm an aspiring filmmaker, it's a great place for me to come and learn about other makers' process. If I'm just a documentary, what do we call them? Documentary file?
Buff.
I don't know what the word is.
Documentary buff.
There you go, documentary buff. Then this is a great way to sort of peek behind the scenes. And then if you're just really into learning about what's going on in the diaspora, there's an opportunity to not only watch the film, but hear what the filmmaker's experience was like, and maybe things that got cut from the film that didn't make the final cut. So,
and the subject, I mean, people, because of the documentaries are about social, political issues.
right.
And people want to learn more about that. I mean, I was thinking about one of the first programs in the African Diaspora Film Club was Chisholm 72, and with Charlotte Lynch. And it was, I think it would happen in August of 2020 or July. And it was, of course, right before Kamala Harris got chosen as the vice presidential candidate, Democratic ticket, but also have people realize that, well, there are people doing those kind of things before. Joey Chisholm, for example.
Right. Helping people to understand there's a continuum here.
Yes.
A lot things are built on top of other experiences and opportunities. Well, so I'm going to diverge a little bit from talking just about the film club, but one of the biggest frustrations that I know a lot of documentary filmmakers, particularly Black filmmakers, have experienced over time is the scarcity of distribution opportunities. And I wonder kind of what your thoughts are about what being able to screen your films in a virtual environment and even talk about your films in an environment. I mean, what are the filmmakers saying about this new opportunity that has kind of opened up for them?
I think in terms of talking about their work and engaging with an audience, especially when they can't do it face to face at a festival, or I think people are very, very, they welcome it. I think that there's that aspect, and the broader idea about streaming and what that means for the economy of filmmaking and revenue. That's a really big question. And I mean, there are opportunities that in public broadcasting, outside of public broadcasting, with streaming services, whether it's Netflix or cable. There have been more platforms for people to show their work and also to get financing. So that's exciting for this time period, which we hope will continue, after the uprisings, etc. But we'll see.
Well, so this next question is kind of for both of you. What has this period of time and this particular program taught you, if anything, about the diaspora film community and what their needs are, what they're thinking about, how they see distributing their work to audiences in the U.S.? I mean, what is happening?
You answer that.
Oh, you want me to answer?
Either one of you both might have comments about that.
I mean, I think in terms of, there are two examples, I think, that were outside the U.S. and then we've had to figure out the time so that the filmmakers and people would, it could work for their time.
Yeah, if you're 12 hours away or.
We managed to do it. There's the
Right.
Softy was a film from Kenya
Right.
by Sam Soko. We had him as well as the participant, the main person, Boniface Wangi. And they were up at 6 o'clock in the morning, right, Elizabeth?
Wow.
Yeah. On the,
Wow.
Boniface was on the side of the road. He had been driving somewhere and he just pulled off on the side of the road to call in and do the program, which was amazing.
Wow. I
Right.
love it. I love it.
And the other good thing about that one was that we heard that Boniface, who was a political activist and would run for office, and the film is covering that. He's going to probably launch a campaign for president, as I recall. So, which is a dicey thing, based on the film and the opposition he'd get from the status quo. So the audience that we had for this film, at least, can anticipate and maybe support and follow that campaign. So there's that, and the other film, Chez Jolie Coiffeur,
Right.
and Rosine Bacum, and she was joining us from Brussels, and so at another different time zone for us too. No, we got to experience or discuss what it means about immigration, and particularly for African women, and in Europe, and the whatever, the challenges that they face. And it's an audience got a sense of that. We see the things in the headlines, but what does it really, how does it really impact people's life? Yeah, in daily life.
Right.
Set in a beauty parlor where that's where, everything is real.
Exactly.
I think one of the things that I've noticed is just how excited the filmmakers are to have this platform to screen their film and engage with an audience, like Cornelius said, when they're not able to during COVID, but also to be able to do it with a museum, with an arts institution, with a Black institution. They're always really excited for the partnership. And I feel like that they don't often have a lot of choices of platforms of where their work can be seen. And obviously Black public media is a very important one. And so it's really exciting to be partnering with you. And for MoAD to be able to provide another small platform for these filmmakers is something that I feel is sort of the best thing that's come out of it for us and for the community.
That's great. So I know you talked a little bit about what happens when people actually register, but walk people through the registration process. And I apologize, my dog is in the room with me and he's shaking, so I apologize for that. But walk us through the process of how do you actually sign up to attend one of these events?
So the easiest way to do that would be to go to the MoAD website, which is moadsf.org, and look at the calendar and find the event that you want to attend. We have, multiple events every month. And so you find the African Diaspora Film Club. There's a button that you can click on to buy tickets. All of our events are pay what you can. So you can do a free registration, or you can choose to donate to the museum to support the programming. And so it's like you're buying a ticket and you fill out, a registration form, and then you'll receive an acknowledgement email, which provides you the Zoom link and the link to stream the film. So you just follow the instructions in that acknowledgement email that hopefully doesn't go to your junk mail. It actually goes to your inbox. So check your junk mail. And then you join us on Zoom and we all get to experience the wonderful conversation and program.
That's great. So let me ask another question. Is there an archive, like if I'm unable to attend on a particular day, is there an archive that folks can actually do? And thank you, Cornelius. I put the email, the web address in the chat incorrectly. So it's moadsf.org.
Mhm.
Sorry. But anyway, getting back to this question of whether or not there's an archive. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. All of our online programs are archived on MoAD's YouTube channel. And so you go to the YouTube channel, and I can put that link in the chat too. And you can find all kinds of programming that we do, but if you're specifically interested in the African Diaspora Film Club, then there's a playlist that you can click on, and that will list all of the programs that we've done. I think we started in June of 2020, and we've been doing it monthly. So there's quite a few that we have amassed.
Yeah, and actually having this conversation with you is making me realize we need to put a link to that page on the Black Public Media website page. So I'll make sure that that happens too. Now, I understand that the film club's going to be on hiatus for December, but what do we have coming up in January? Is the schedule put together yet? Or are we working on that? I mean, I know part of it is going to be what Black Public Media has to offer with Afropop, but our films are not going to be available until April. So I'm curious to know what is coming.
Right. It's in January, Unapologetic,
Oh, yeah.
which is a film that's going to be on broadcast on excuse me, POV. A great film. The filmmakers are.
So yeah, Ashley O'Shea is the director and producer, and Morgan Johnson is also a
Yes.
producer. So Ashley and Morgan will both be on the program in January.
What's the date of that? Do we know that? January
Yeah, we do.
9th?
Is it this because it's the second?
It's the second Sunday, yeah. So January 9th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it's an hour.
Oh, yay. Very nice. And then
And it's going to be broadcast in December 27th, I believe.
yeah, so then it'll be available on the PBS app for
Yes.
anybody who wants to screen it at their leisure.
Mm.
That'd be great. And then is there anything yet scheduled for February? I mean, I know it's a busy month for everybody. But
We're working on that.
okay, great. So that's a good reason for people to read the Black Public Media newsletter and dispatch, because we talk about that all the time, or visit the MoAD website where all of that information is on their events page. So that's great. Let's see, I think we're coming to the end of this. Let me see if I have a couple other questions for you both.
Could I mention the California Newsreel website?
Oh, please do. Please do. Absolutely.
And put it in the chat. It's newsreel.org.
One thing that I would love to mention before we finish is, I think one of the amazing benefits, of course, of doing these programs online, in addition to being able to have a filmmaker from Kenya or a filmmaker in Belgium join us, we also have had audience members from all over the world join us. So, you know, of course, you had to be living in the Bay Area or visiting the Bay Area to come to MoAD and to come to one of the in-person film screenings. But now, you know, anybody across the country or across the globe can join us. And I think that's something that I noticed when we started the partnership with Black Public Media, that the geographic range of our participants really increased because your reach is, you know, is broad. And so the people who are coming to the programs based on the partnership with Black Public Media has increased. So it's really nice.
Yay, that's great.
I know we've had people from Colombia and the Caribbean. Where else have we do recall that we've had people join? From Europe?
We've had people from Europe, and we've had people, we had people from Kenya when we did the Softy program as well, and several places in Latin America, not just Colombia, but all throughout Central America and Latin America.
And that's so exciting because, you know, for filmmakers who are in places where the film community is really small, it's really exciting to be able to connect to this larger diaspora and talk to filmmakers, because not everyone can fly to a conference somewhere else in the world, and you know, to be able to just sit in a room at home and or wherever in your office and tune in and listen to these conversations, I imagine is extremely beneficial. So we're going to go ahead and close, but I'm going to ask my last question really for both of you is, what is your favorite thing about this program?
Oh, I it always keeps me on my toes what to do next, and what if I know what people are doing, and to have a reason to, well, not just have a reason, but like watching the movies, but it's like, oh, this could be a great program, and the filmmakers, and hear what they have to say in their stories, and so it I think it just really gives an audience an idea of what's out there and what people are working on, and what to anticipate.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Excellent. What was it?
I think my favorite, I'm going to cheat and say two. My favorite parts are actually the being introduced to the content, and how much I learn. I learn something. I learn a lot from every film that I watch. And then the second thing is the passion of the filmmakers is so exciting to see, and how much they care about the work that they're doing, and the subject matter of their films. It's really inspiring.
Excellent.
And I think, can I say some more? But just, I mean, I think it generates, I think, activity. I mean, I was thinking of the film that the program we did with C.J. Hunt, Neutral Ground, which was such about, the current in the papers, if you're reading it right, about the Confederate monuments, but not just the Confederate monuments, but all about U.S. history, and how it's such a contentious, for some people, about what really happened, and what we need to put in the forefront, and why these are really important issues, and that drive where we're going to go as a country. So that's,
yeah. I mean, so many of the films that we've shown are really centered on social justice issues that are with us right now, and that people can learn what they can do to help change the situation from watching these films and talking with the filmmakers.
Well, thank you both for making time to do this today. I think it's been a lovely, lively conversation. I learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to January for that January 9th film club gathering. And again, anyone who is interested in tuning into this, please go to the MoAD website and go to their events page. There is a particular place where you can find what's going on with the film club. And as Elizabeth pointed out, if you would like to look at the archive while you're waiting for January, we invite you to do that as well. So anyway, thank you so much, and have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world watching this. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.